this. KG in the chat with one of the best comments I've ever seen. He said, "We are in the shaved head Britney phase of the Padres," and I could not agree more. We are absolutely in that phase right now, where every single day something comes out and you go, okay, how am I going to navigate this one today as a Padres fan? How do I feel today? And yesterday was another example of that as we left again, the Michael King rumors. And look, I think our show, Craig's show, I think every show in town has talked about, hey, if A.J. Preller is going to reload or revamp or whatever fancy word you want to use, these are the candidates that would get you the most back. And you list the guys like Robert Suarez, get you a decent haul. Dylan Cease would get you a decent haul. Michael King would get you a decent haul. Luis Ariz would get you a decent haul.
And you're also in danger of losing all four of those players at the end of the season to free agency because none are
correct
signed to long-term contracts.
Yeah, and so, but you did think, and we talked about it yesterday, we talked about the ARB hearings, and we said, well, why would you get ARB done for all your guys but one, Michael King? Michael King talked about it on the Corey Kluber podcast where he said, I think it might be, it's a scene where I've only been a starting pitcher for this long. So my expectation was here. Theirs was more market value here, and we're about $1 million off. He didn't seem super upset about it on the Corey Kluber podcast, but I don't know that Michael King gets super upset. Said, hey, this is the process. We're going to go through it. Then yesterday, it comes out, and it's MLB Trade Rumors that first reported it, that Michael King is being actively shopped. I know Josh Stein, who's the assistant GM, did a appearance over the weekend, and our beloved Michelle Geekster posted kind of some of his comments, and he said, Cease, King, Ariz, some of these guys are still in play, and we're talking about trading them. So it wasn't exactly... Now, had it said Fernando Tatis Jr., that would have stopped me in my tracks, right? That's one that you would say, oh, my God, what are we doing? But Michael King, I'm not saying I like it. I think it's a terrible idea. I think that's a guy that can win a Cy Young at some point. I think he's got that good of stuff. I think it's moronic if you trade Michael King. I won't be able to buy that, but it's not like it's the first time it's been mentioned.
I have two thoughts, and they're a little bit counterintuitive to each other, but I'll start with this. What leads you to think they can extend Michael King? He's going to command $30 million a year if he has another year like he did last year. That's the going rate for a Cy Young caliber, like those are your words just now. Cy Young caliber pitcher, he's making $25 to $30 million a year. What on earth in the last 2 years with the Padres has told you that they can afford to extend him at that rate?
So,
and then B, if you only have all those four guys for one more year, why not go all in on this year? Why dump them and rebuild? I've never been the guy that's going to look 4 years down the road. It's just not how I'm wired.
Right. Well, listen.
If you have them on your roster, let's try to win it this year.
Then
see what happens.
I think he does have the stuff to be but you have to have a bigger track record to net $30 million a year. You just do. So if Michael King said, well, with the way that it's going right now, I'm happy there. I like being there. I'll sign a 3-year extension, 3 years plus this year. So he'll be here for 3 more years, and it gets him a chance to build up that resume to go out and get that $25 to $30 million. Or at that point, who knows what they're going to be paying for starting pitching? Right. But you get a little security, a little familiarity. I don't think he wants to be on his third team in 3 years. I don't think he's wired that way. But I also know he needs to get paid what he's worth.
Well, let me answer Paulie's question because I think if Juan Soto is tradable with a year left on his deal, anybody who's going into their last year of a deal is certainly on the table, not just for the Padres, but really any team. You always think about that at the very least. But could the Padres extend Michael King even at the end of this season when he becomes a free agent? Let's assume, I don't know if this is true or not because the Padres don't tell us, anything about their payroll, but let's assume that they're going to continue to operate right around where they are now. Don't want to go over the luxury tax, but are willing to be close to it as they are at this moment. Well, next year they have Dylan Cease, Luis Ariz, Robert Suarez, Eric Hosmer's money, all coming off the books. That's right there. That's about 60 to 70 million coming off the books in luxury tax next year.
But there's more raises.
Yeah, but those are all in the luxury tax.
Plus
Those are already accounted for in the luxury tax. So that all comes off the luxury tax books next year.
Yeah, those 4 players come off the books, but you have to replace them with other players.
Correct, but if you wanted to allocate some of that money toward a Michael King extension, you could afford it next year and still stay under the luxury tax level. Now, you might need to, find a couple of other cheaper options to replace Arise and Cease, but you could afford a big contract extension for Michael King starting next year and still stay under the luxury tax. So
Even
if that's
with Manny's money going up,
but that's already accounted for in the luxury tax. Manny is getting 35 whatever against the luxury tax this year. Now, he's not making that money this year, it goes up, but against the luxury tax, it counts this year. Tatis counts fully this year. Bogarts counts fully every single year. That's an average. So you could afford, at least luxury tax wise, an extension for Michael King. You couldn't do it this minute, but you could do it at the end of the season after all of that money comes off the books.
But then he's a free agent after the end of
Correct.
the season.
So why trade Michael King right now? Let's listen to what they had to say yesterday on MLB Network.
This is the latest of A.J. Preller's genius. Michael King reportedly, I'm going to say something I've said, I feel like 30 times, is being dangled in trade talks. And the Padres are open for business. I don't know if people know that. A.J. Preller I can't sit on his hands and do nothing. So Michael King, who's entering the final year of arbitration, he'll be a free agent at the end of the season. You see his numbers. Why would you want to trade him? ERA under 3, all of those strikeouts. He was one of the best pitchers, not just in the National League, but in the sport this past season with the San Diego Padres in a very elite group. Sub-3 ERA with 200 more strikeouts. Only Chris Sale, Tarek Skubal, and Zach Wheeler among those. So here you have this great talent who looks like he's found a home. I've said that a couple times in his career with the Yankees, now with the Padres. If you're the San Diego Padres and you're in the toughest division in baseball, with Corbin Burnes in Arizona, with Justin Verlander in San Francisco, and Buster Posey leading the charge, and the Dodgers being the Dodgers, I don't know, if you want to compete, how do you trade and part ways with Michael King?
It's so true. I mean, you look at him, and your first thought is what you said. How can you trade a guy that you just traded for and came over and did everything and more that you could ask for, right? He was as good unicorn out there. No one throws like him. No one has the delivery or the slot where he releases the baseball. But I think when everyone's zigging, A.J. Preller is always zagging. And I think his thought here is that this kid had such an amazing year. What would he bring with teams that are really needing a starter and a A1 starter?
We
might
need
bring
that.
4 or 5 players. Maybe that's
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Take advantage of the market because Roki Sasaki's gone. The teams that were in missed out on Roki Sasaki. Corbin Burnes signed with the Diamondbacks. So the top 2 guys are gone. Maybe someone will overpay. One of the clubs that were out there, that maybe the Toronto Blue Jays, who wanted Roki Sasaki, what would they give up to get a Michael King?
What if you identify the Dodgers have done something unprecedented and that they're so good, it might be a good time to regroup for a couple of years, rebuild and get the depth back to that organization because there's been a lot of trades, and then move forward in a couple of years.
Yeah,
God.
Interesting.
But the fans won't like that. But
No, why would we? Why would we want to go from a team that won 93 games last year and then the very next season say, all right, Dodgers made moves, so we're out, and we're going to trade King, and we're going to trade Cease, and we're going to trade Arise, and we're going to let Profar walk. That is the recipe for disaster if you're the San Diego Padres. The absolute recipe.
Let's talk about that because, there's kind of some layers to that comment that Ron Darling made. We'll get to that right after a check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan. So I tend to agree with you here, Woods. If, just because the Dodgers have gone crazy here and really put the National League West out of reach, not just from the Padres, but from the Giants and the Diamondbacks as well, probably for the next few years. I don't know. I don't think the Dodgers window is just the next 2 years.
No.
It's probably, another 5 or 6. You can't,
at least.
You can't just say, well, we can't even compete. So you're still going for a wild card.
Do you get the sense that they're going to stop
I
after
don't.
this year?
I don't get that sense at all. So, as you mentioned, Manny Machado, is only going to be getting older. Xander Bogaerts is only going to be getting older. Yeah, you do have young talent. Jackson Merrill. You have, hopefully, Ethan Salas and Leo Dallas DeVries. We'll talk about, the prospect rankings and how those guys are developing a little bit later. And you could have another window that kind of opens up or extends the current window later this decade. And if there is an opportunity to pull off a really good trade with one of these guys and pick up, players that help you now and in the future, that's why they're talking about it. You do have to consider the offers that are coming in. You don't have to give these players away for nothing just because they're going to be free agents at the end of the year. They have a lot of value to you as well this year.
We say it every year. We say every year at the trade deadline. He's listening on everybody. He's listening on every single player. If somebody calls and says, "Hey, I'm interested in Fernando Tatis Jr." All right, what do you got? No, thanks. See ya. I mean, you'd be dumb not to ask, and you'd be dumb not to listen, right? Hey, I love this place. Somebody calls me and wants to talk to me about a huge offer. I'm listening. No offense, right? And I think everybody listening right now, no matter what you do for a living, you're going to listen. Doesn't mean you have to take it. Doesn't mean you have to really entertain it. But, yeah, I think he listens on everybody. But I'll tell you right now, like, if you're Michael King, are we not reading into the one thing that maybe we should? Michael King got taken to ARB, and he's like, yeah, if you want to trade me, trade me. Is that a possibility? Like, you're not going to extend me. Look where you are as an organization right now. If you can get something for me, I'll go. Trade me.
I mean, he has no choice in the matter.
Right,
so,
right.
It's not up to him at this point in his career.
So how do you feel? I'm really interested, too. I would give almost anything to know what the group text, if there is one, between the guys, that are on this team and locked in on this team for many, many years to come. How are they feeling right now when they log on to their Twitter account or their Instagram accounts? Michael King on the block, Dylan Cease on the block, Luis Arraez on the block. After the inspiring, and I mean inspiring run last year. I know the end sucked. It was terrible and uninspiring. 24 innings of scoreless baseball is pretty uninspiring. But to get to that point, Ben, the second half that they had after a pretty mediocre first half, that was inspiring baseball. That was fun. We all loved that. And Petco Park was slammed, and it was rocking, and everyone is Padres fever. What are those guys thinking today? Cool. Okay, there goes our leadoff hitter. There goes two horses in our rotation. And for who? What are we doing?
Well, I don't think they get caught up in speculation. They'll react if it actually happens. But
you don't think they do?
I don't think they're going to get too worked up over rumors that are constantly swirling around A.J. Preller.
Alex says the players don't care. He says they get paid. They don't care. I disagree. And the reason
they care about winning. They
absolutely
care about winning.
The reason I know they care about winning is because I've talked to them about it. And I believe them when they say it. And they show it through their play sometimes, a lot of the time. And I know that has to stick in their craw last year, how it ended. And to get that close, and then your company says, sorry, we're going to. But again, we don't know. We don't know if they're going to retool. We don't know if they're going to rebuild. We don't know if they're going to, whatever word, revamp. All the re-words. We don't know what they're going to do because nobody said anything. And there haven't been any moves. So we are left to speculate. A, who's calling the shots, B, what those shots are going to be, and C, how those players are feeling about it.
It's you make the point that there hasn't been any moves.
Correct.
And there hasn't. There also hasn't been any
trades.
Moves to tear apart the team. They
haven't losing guys.
They haven't re-signed guys that were free agents, but there has not been one active move to subtract from the team other than the natural course of free agency. Yeah. And, teams don't always re-sign their own free agents. Usually the smart teams tend to not.
It's funny, too, because I was talking to the Kluger about it the other day, and he goes, dude, think about the Braves winning a World Series and letting Freddie Freeman walk, right? And think about some of the guys that some of these teams are letting walk right now. Kyle Tucker, blah, blah, blah.
The smart teams, by the way, the ones that are considered...
Yeah, those moves are a lot easier to make
after you win a World Series. Yeah, they're much easier to stomach.
They're easier to stomach, but it doesn't make them less or more smart to do it. As players, become free agents, guys in their 30s like Jurickson, the smarter teams don't tend to sign their own free agents
but then
and
you
keep
can still
them.
go out and get quality free agents and say, look at what we at what we got here. We got championships.
I mean, bro, they replaced Freddie Freeman with Matt Olson. Pretty good. pretty good. We're
But
talking
quite
about
a bit cheaper.
Yeah, quite a bit cheaper.
Quite a bit cheaper.